Have you ever agreed to something and instantly regretted it? Do you feel guilty for turning others down, even when you're overwhelmed or uncomfortable? What if learning to say no is actually one of the most powerful acts of self-respect? If these questions speak to you, you're in the right place. Welcome to a journey of personal power and clarity. In this video, we'll uncover the art of saying no, not with cruelty, but with courage. You'll learn how to set emotional boundaries, honor your values, and protect your energy. Because the truth is, saying no is not rejection, it's redirection towards the life you deserve. If you're on a path of growth, reflection, and reclaiming your inner peace, make sure to subscribe and join this tribe of warriors choosing discipline over drama and self-respect over self-sacrifice. 1. Why you struggle to say no. Why is it so hard to say no? Because many of us were taught that kindness means compliance, that pleasing others means we're good people. But Stoicism teaches something different. Virtue lies in integrity, not in appeasement. A Stoic doesn't bend just to fit in. They stand firm in their values, even if it means disappointing someone else. The discomfort of saying no is often a symptom of being conditioned to place harmony above honesty and conformity above character. Saying yes all the time doesn't make you kind. It makes you a prisoner to everyone else's needs. If your peace is constantly sacrificed for the comfort of others, that's not generosity, it's self-abandonment. This kind of constant acquiescence may feel virtuous in the moment, but over time, it erodes your sense of self. You begin to lose sight of your own priorities, your goals, and your emotional bandwidth. True Stoic virtue means being useful to others without being used by them. If your yes comes from fear rather than freedom, it isn't kindness, it's coercion. You're not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You're only responsible for living in alignment with your values. And often, that begins with the uncomfortable but powerful word, no. When you start saying no, expect resistance, especially from those who benefited from your inability to say it. But the Stoic doesn't live for applause, they live for truth. Saying no is an act of alignment, and that alignment is the birthplace of peace. So many of our yeses are really disguised fears. Fear of rejection, fear of being disliked, fear of conflict. But every time you betray your truth to avoid discomfort, you trade your authenticity for approval. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events, but from our judgments about them. If you judge no as harsh or wrong, you'll carry guilt. But if you judge it as necessary, protective, and honest, you'll carry strength. Saying no is how you say yes to your values. Stoicism reminds us that saying no is not an act of aggression, it's an act of self-preservation. The more you practice it, the less dramatic it becomes. Eventually, no becomes a neutral word, not a weapon or a wound. You stop feeling guilty and you start feeling grounded. You don't have to justify it endlessly or cushion it with excuses. You simply recognize that your time, energy, and values are finite, and you honor them accordingly. 2. Boundaries are not walls, they're bridges. Many people confuse boundaries with barriers. They think setting limits pushes people away. But real boundaries are bridges. They connect you to others in a way that's honest, sustainable, and healthy. When you set a boundary, you're not severing connection. You're establishing the conditions under which connection can thrive. Without boundaries, even love becomes polluted with resentment and obligation. With boundaries, love becomes clear, voluntary, and mutually respectful. Imagine being in a relationship, friendship, romantic, or family, where you always say yes out of fear. That's not love. That's survival. And over time, resentment grows. But when you speak your truth, when you draw the line clearly and calmly, you allow space for respect to flourish. When people know what you can and cannot offer, they're free to relate to you without manipulation or hidden expectations. And when you respect yourself enough to draw that line, you teach others how to respect you too. Stoic philosophy reminds us that we can't control others, but we can control ourselves. Setting boundaries is not about control, it's about clarity. And clarity builds stronger, truer connections. You can't force someone to honor your boundaries, but you can enforce them through your actions. The Stoic approach doesn't seek to dominate or demand, it simply defines. It says, here is where I stand. You are free to respond how you choose, but I am also free to walk away if my integrity is at risk. Boundaries are not rejections, they are revelations. They reveal where you end and someone else begins. They affirm your individuality in a world that often tries to blur it. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." But how can anyone improve you if they're constantly violating your peace? Boundaries create space for growth, both yours and theirs. Without them, connection turns to codependence, and service becomes servitude. Too often, we wait until we're angry, overwhelmed, or burned out before setting a boundary. But a wise Stoic sets them early, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Boundaries made in calm are more effective than boundaries drawn in chaos. They are proactive rather than reactive, firm rather than frenzied. They say, I care enough about our relationship to make it sustainable. And that's the opposite of selfishness. That's stewardship. 3. The guilt trap and how to escape it. One of the biggest obstacles to setting boundaries is guilt, that nagging feeling that you're being selfish or mean for saying no. But ask yourself, why does protecting your time and energy make you feel bad? The guilt often isn't rooted in truth. It's rooted in old scripts, handed down by family, culture, or society. Scripts that taught you your worth was earned through sacrifice. But the Stoics believed that a life of virtue is one guided by reason, not guilt. Guilt is often irrational and thus unfit to guide your choices. Guilt often comes from internalized beliefs that your worth depends on others' approval. But the Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Living honestly means saying no when something doesn't feel right. If your inner compass points toward peace, but guilt pulls you toward obligation, follow the compass. The more you live by truth, the less power guilt will have over you. You don't owe your energy to anyone who demands it without respecting your autonomy. Free yourself from the illusion that you owe your life to everyone. You don't. You owe it to yourself to live intentionally, not reactively. Guilt tries to make you reactive, to shrink you back into an obedient version of yourself. But intentional living means you pause, reflect, and choose, not from fear, but from clarity. Epictetus said, "Know what you can control and what you cannot." You cannot control how others interpret your no, but you can control whether you betray yourself to ease their disappointment. Breaking free from guilt requires reconditioning. You have to relearn what goodness actually is. It's not about overextending yourself. It's about living with purpose and principle. True goodness is not performative. It doesn't ask, will they still like me? It asks, am I living by reason and virtue? Guilt will call you selfish, but Stoicism calls you wise. And wisdom means knowing that your energy is not infinite. If you waste it on guilt, you won't have it for growth. Lastly, remember this. Guilt is a feeling, not a fact. Just because you feel bad doesn't mean you've done something wrong. Sometimes guilt is the echo of your old self resisting change. But you're not here to stay the same. You're here to evolve.
Every time you say no to something misaligned, you say yes to becoming the person you were meant to be. The Stoic path isn't paved with guilt. It's paved with clarity, courage, and conviction.
Number 4, saying no without burning bridges. Setting boundaries doesn't mean cutting everyone off. You can say no with grace. It's all in how you communicate it. Saying no is not a declaration of war. It's a quiet affirmation of self. Many people mistakenly assume that a refusal must come with coldness, rudeness, or detachment. But the truth is, boundary setting, when done mindfully, can actually strengthen a relationship rather than sever it. You are not rejecting the person. You are clarifying your needs, your capacity, and your values. A well-placed no is not a wall, but a door. It says, "This is where I end, and this is where you begin, and between us there is mutual understanding, not silent obligation." You don't need to over-explain, apologize endlessly, or justify your choices. A calm, firm, respectful no is enough. "I won't be able to do that," or "that doesn't work for me right now." That's all it takes. When you start padding your no with excuses or guilt, you inadvertently teach people that your boundaries are negotiable. You communicate that your time and energy are up for debate. But when you speak clearly and concisely, you invite others into a space of maturity. No long-winded story, no emotional labor to make them feel better about your limit, just truth, delivered with composure. A simple, "I can't commit to that," or "I'm focusing on other priorities right now," communicates enough without putting you in a position of defense. When people respect you, they will respect your boundaries. And if they don't, that tells you everything you need to know. Saying no doesn't ruin relationships. Dishonesty and resentment do. It is not your no that fractures a bond. It is often the unspoken yeses you give out of fear, guilt, or habit. When you say yes to avoid confrontation, but silently resent the person, you create emotional debt. Eventually, that debt collects interest in the form of bitterness, avoidance, or emotional withdrawal. True respect comes from clarity. If someone reacts poorly to your boundary, it's a reflection of their expectations, not your value. Let them show you their emotional maturity. A no that honors your truth is a gift, not a betrayal. The fear of burning bridges often stems from the false belief that relationships must be maintained at all costs. But some bridges need to burn, for light, for warmth, for clarity. Most, though, can remain standing if the conversation is rooted in kindness and self-awareness. You're allowed to choose peace without creating conflict. You can decline an invitation without damaging the connection. Healthy people appreciate honesty. They may be disappointed, but they will not despise you. And if they do, then your boundary simply revealed a truth that was waiting to surface. Let it. You teach people how to engage with you by how you show up in those uncomfortable moments. Saying no with respect teaches others that you're someone who values both themselves and the relationship. You're not saying, "I don't care about you." You're saying, "I care about me enough to be honest with you." That's real integrity. Ultimately, the goal isn't to avoid discomfort. The goal is to preserve relationships by building them on a foundation of truth, not obligation, fear, or guilt. Saying no is how you preserve your energy and your dignity while still staying connected. And that is something truly powerful. 5. Reclaiming your power through boundaries. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you say yes to something that fuels you, your peace, your growth, your purpose. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet act of choosing rest over rushing, solitude over social noise, healing over hustle. Boundaries are the container in which your power lives. Without them, your energy leaks into things that don't serve you. But every no becomes a redirect, a recalibration of your life toward what truly matters. That energy you save by not explaining yourself to everyone, that space you guard from unnecessary drama, that becomes the fuel for your focus, your creativity, your joy. The art of saying no is the art of self-respect. And Stoicism teaches us that living well means living in alignment with nature, and that includes your own nature. You are not here to be everything to everyone. You are here to be true to who you are. A Stoic doesn't waste themselves on what lies outside of their control. When you let go of people-pleasing and step into boundary setting, you embody this principle. You stop living reactively. You stop chasing approval like a currency, and instead, you start honoring your nature, your temperament, your needs, your sacred time. This isn't selfish, it's survival. It's also service, because when you live aligned, you offer the world your best, not your burnout. Boundaries are how you teach the world how to treat you, and they begin with a decision. I matter. My time matters. My energy matters. That decision becomes a standard, and standards become the structure of your life. People will treat you how you let them. If you say yes to everything, they will expect everything. If you tolerate emotional chaos, they'll believe you're okay with being their outlet. But when you choose to draw a line, you are not just protecting yourself, you are declaring your worth. You are announcing, I am not a doormat. I am not a sponge. I am not available for disrespect. Reclaiming your power is not about becoming hard or distant. It's about becoming discerning. It's about choosing what gets your attention and what doesn't. Who earns access to your inner world and who doesn't? Because not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. Boundaries make that possible. Too many people confuse being nice with being available. But true kindness has limits. It includes kindness to yourself. You can be compassionate without being depleted. You can care without carrying. Your power doesn't grow from overextending. It grows from anchoring in who you are and letting that be enough. Think of your boundary not as a barrier, but as a gate. It's not about keeping everyone out. It's about letting the right people in, the ones who honor your space, your rhythm, your humanity. Those are the people worth building with. And when you set a boundary and they adjust, that's your signal. They see you, they hear you, they care enough to meet you there. That's what power does. It creates clarity. It reveals who's with you for your soul, not just your service. Reclaiming your power doesn't mean you dominate others. It means you refuse to abandon yourself. And that, above all else, is what Stoicism has always taught, that we are free the moment we begin to live by principle, not pressure.
It takes courage to choose yourself in a world that rewards overextension. But the price of always saying yes is your own depletion, and you deserve better. Practice the art of saying no, not as an act of rebellion, but as an act of responsibility. Responsibility to yourself, your values, your mental and emotional health. If this message resonated with you, subscribe for more content on Stoicism, boundaries, and mastering your mindset. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, you are not selfish for having limits. You are wise for honoring them. And every time you say no to what doesn't serve you, you say yes to your power.